Thinking of investing, working, or starting a business in the cannabis industry? We've got you covered right here on Plant Problems. Hosted by Tony Frischknecht, Plant Problems takes a different approach to cannabis than what you're seeing and hearing from the mainstream media. Come along with Tony and be in the know about how to invest, work, or start a cannabis business. Let's get the show started with your host, Tony Frischknecht.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Plant Problems. This week's episode, I'm actually going to be talking to somebody that we've already had an interview with here a few months ago. This gentleman has been in cannabis for quite some time now. He first started and he was campaigning for legalization in Colorado. He transitioned to a vaporizer company, one of the larger vaporizer companies here in the state, Open Vape. He was a director of sponsorship there. Then he went on he wanted to do some bigger stuff. He wanted to create some of his own stuff. So he started a company with a couple business partners called Straight Hemp, grew that business for a little over a year. And now he's on to his fourth position in what is not necessarily the cannabis industry. However, he has transitioned to work on both sides, which is the CBD and the THC side, and now an ancillary company that he's fallen into. And this was provided by his Brandstrax processing company. In our last episode with this gentleman, he had a processing company that they started that was doing white labeling and creating products for a lot of the CBD industry and people out there that are trying to build their first product and come out. So lots of things have happened over the last few months. And I have Axie Blundon with Brandstrax, and he's got his new product has been out for the last few months called Helios, and there's been so much happening. Axie, thanks you so much for joining us here at Plant Problems. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Tony. It's really great to be here with you. I feel less like we're doing a podcast and more like we're just catching up on your back porch in Capitol like we did a little while ago, and things are good. Things are crazy, and it feels like it's been many years since I spoke to you last, but it's only been less than 6 months.
That's what tends to happen, especially when you're building a business in this crazy industry. You've come up with this new product, Helios, and we actually started talking about this back it was right in the lockdown period.
Yeah.
It was really unknown. So back here in April of 2020, we had a discussion. And so what I'd like to talk to you about today is kind of this natural transition from starting to up and running to probably catching your breath, figuring out where the direction of the product is going and where you're going and potentially your business partner. So this is the first time I brought somebody else back. So for you that are the listeners out there, this guy's in the middle of it right now. And we're going to be talking to Axie about some of his strategies that he's taken place and really seeing, okay, where he started, where he thought he was going, and where he is now. And so this changes along the way. And I think for me as the interviewee, it's exciting for me to see, some of the things he's learned. And as we move forward, you'll see, okay, if you go back to his earlier episode, you can kind of listen in, and then you can also hear the differences, what he's feeling to what he's feeling now. And so we're kind of trying to do, I shouldn't say kind of, we're doing a real-time live update on what's happening with his new product and the progression of his company. Wouldn't you say, Axie?
Yeah, that's right, Tony. We certainly are doing a real-time live update. So much so that I wasn't expecting to be on camera here, but Tony here really wants it to be authentic, and authenticity is actually one of the core values at Helios. And so, we've kind of taken pause at this time to really engineer the vision, mission, core values, and the strategy for this company, and then distill that down to a 10-year plan, a 3-year vision, your 1-year goals, your rocks, and then what our current issues are. And that has been a process, and it's been a journey since we began. I think when we last spoke, we had really gotten into business with going from producing it for our friends and family and those in need to giving it away to frontline healthcare workers. And then we had a 40-store location that we do the CBD private label for, place an account, and that really got us going and got us into business. We separated companies, so we had a non-cannabis touching CBD company.
So actually, just so that we can give a little bit of context, because I didn't really share quite yet, unless they listened to your last episode, but you were in the pandemic. We were all in the lockdown, and you guys came up with an idea of a product. And what was that product?
A sanitizer product. It was became clear that it was going to be in great need for people to stay safe during this unknown time of threat, and it was quickly in short supply to the point that it was not, you couldn't get it anywhere. And because we had a cannabis extraction facility using ethanol as our to extract cannabis, we were able to repurpose that, make a sanitizer product, and turn it around, really overnight, literally. And we didn't think, at the time, I thought we'll give it away. It'll be a marketing, and we'll do good in the world and give it away for free. And we did that, and that worked well. And then, as I was saying, a large 40-store account came knocking and said, "We want to place an order. We can't get this stuff anywhere. We want to get it from you." And that got us, really kickstarted the engines of this operation. And we're now in, pushing 100 stores across the country. We are producing, at scale. And we've also faced a lot of...
What does that mean by producing at scale for the listeners that are out there? Because everybody is... That's relative to the person usually speaking about it. So could you go a little more in depth about what scale you're talking about?
Well, I guess by that I would say we're producing in a way that we can scale up. So we are consistently, looking at our projections and where we're going and what we're going to need to do to meet that demand, and then at the same time improving our operations and our systems to be more efficient. When we were the only shop in town, so to speak, you couldn't find sanitizer anywhere. We never were charging more than any sanitizer would be. But then you saw a lot of companies pop up charging little to nothing. These just it's not the ingredients aren't cheap, or aren't expensive really. It's a matter of being able to assemble them and get them to market that, becomes a value added product. And so that's kind of what we've been focusing on, while a lot of other companies just went straight to make the cheapest product and get the most out there. And you saw them pop up as quickly as you're seeing them disappear. And so we kind of have decided not to just focus on price. We've decided to focus on quality and authenticity, and creating a product that helps you live your best life. And the vision of Helios is a clean, happy, healthy world, and the mission of Helios is to provide plant-based wellness products to at an accessible price, while still providing to those in need at no cost. And so
So this is like your starter product to that line. Is that, am I correct?
That's right. Yeah, there's going to be some really cool developments coming with the brand, and going into different, not just having a sanitizer products, but having other personal and home, wellness products available as well.
So let's take this product here for the listeners. I want you guys to know I don't have Axie here just straight up to talk about plugging his product, right? He's obviously a passionate entrepreneur about this. He wants to discuss this, but what I really want to get to is seeing where, he started this thing very quickly. I mean, we talked back in March, and the lockdown was happening. How long did it take you to come from idea to launch? How long was it for you to pull Helios together?
I mean, to make the actual product, it was literally like an overnight situation where, because we had a lab with all the ingredients and containers and things like that, we were able to blend it up and put it in a bottle and test it out, and it's effective. And then assigning the brand to it was a little bit more of a process. That was a brand I had kicking around for some time, and it kind of was perfect because Helios is the god of sun. The god of sun is the best disinfectant. And so then we put the brand behind it, and then that was born. And since then we've gotten in front of a lot of people. We were actually awarded a grant from Venture Asheville and the Chamber of Commerce here since we spoke, that really propelled us kind of into the mainstream business community, gave us a lot of local visibility.
I would like to point out, so you're in North Carolina, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And going back to your history in cannabis, how welcoming did North Carolina used to be about cannabis and THC and stuff? Were they welcoming to the product at all, or was there a lot of reservation in North Carolina with CBD and other products?
No, they are now. I mean, luckily, Asheville and Western North Carolina, particularly Asheville and the surrounding area here, is very progressive and has a booming CBD and hemp scene, and is poised to be a center for cannabis and THC in general. So it was very welcoming and very happy to have us, and I think that we're really able to overcome that and be understood because we created this sanitizer company, made the sanitizer product. We're getting it out there. We've partnered with local nonprofits to give it away on an ongoing long-term basis. And, we were awarded this grant by the Chamber of Commerce, and they all, know that we have this other side of the business that is a cannabis CBD business. And they like that story. And frankly, it's the fact that we're making sanitizer and we created another entity and brand and business to do that is only supporting the cannabis business we have. And they're kind of like rising together. And, we talked about last time how I never thought I would do anything outside of cannabis, and then here we are making sanitizer, and it's a whole non-cannabis touching business, and then the Chamber of Commerce is like right this way, and now there's all these wonderful, amazing professionals that are in our network and are supporting us, and so it has been kind of a cathartic experience of overcoming the stigma of working in cannabis.
Yeah, it's what's been pretty incredible is that you're starting to find stories like yours, and one of the other things that I'd like to point out is that had you not started this direction, this pathway, okay, at the beginning of the year, did you think you would be creating a hand sanitizer? Well, I'm talking January.
No way.
Okay. Had you not been pushing the direction you had, or started, let's say just starting the process. I know people out there, it's hard. Sometimes you're like, oh man, but I don't know what it's going to look like here. I want to be a grower. all right, well, you start get bogged down with all these different details. So all these different details as a business owner, you're like, okay, I'm going to do some, I'm going to do some. And then you don't do it because you're trying to find all the answers, right? And
Yep.
so where I'm going with this is pointing out the fact that you didn't know the answers at the beginning of the year. The pandemic hit. Then you had to adjust, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what was the reason you adjusted for at the time? What was the main reason?
A calling to help others with like what we had the resources to do and make. I mean, it was, on the radio. I remember traveling to see my brother in early March and before then hearing news about this. And I thought, well, we have these things. I ordered a few things, got back. Everything
news about the pandemic. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, news about the pandemic. And there was this intuitive kind of sense of like, we're going to need this. We can make this stuff. And then sure enough, like there was a huge shortage and there was just a calling that, for us, it's like we have oodles of the active ingredient for sanitizer products sitting in 270-gallon totes in our extraction facility. People need this. We can make it. And that was really, it really did become a calling, like almost like a spiritual, like moment where it's like, you can do this. We need you.
So, I mean, you sound very passionate about it.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. I mean, it is fueled. It was started by a calling to give back and provide something that we had that others couldn't find. And now we've really memorialized that with these long-term partnerships. So we're giving sanitizer. I mean, it went from postal workers, homeless shelters, frontline healthcare workers, anybody that, could get our attention or we could link up with, we sent them free sanitizer while still selling it, at a fair price to the public, while giving it away to friends and family and our team members. And now, flash forward around 6 months and 100 stores and tens of thousands of units later, we are giving it away still on a long-term ongoing basis to nonprofits, such as A Lot of Homes, which is a home for disadvantaged youth, or Homeward Bound, which is a local program that helps people, find long-term housing solutions and support them through that. And so that's our Here to Help campaign, and that's part of our mission. And
so mission, culture, you talked about that a few minutes ago. I want to go back to that because I think there's some really positive things there. But when people are, talking to a lot of business owners and a lot of people, they're trying to understand how to find their passion in business, right? Is there a way you can say, is there a formula where you can say, look out for this, or how do other people find their passion? Do you have any way of adding to that, like how people can really keep their eyes open for something like that might turn them on, it might spark them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of finding something you love to do and kind of finding a way that could, bring some sort of value to you, specifically, make money on it. And it can be tough. I was a musician. I still am a musician, and I don't make money doing that. And I did for some time, and that's such a creative process that for me, trying to make money on that, it was so much work on something that was so creative that it kind of ruined it. And so now I enjoy that, as a passion. And I put that creative energy towards business. I mean, for me, it's like really people and relationships and being like of service is the passion that fuels this. And, I think all of us kind of have like a core quality within us that we're really good at. And it's like, discover that thing, whether it's relating to people or being really detail oriented or being a great communicator or loving working with your hands, just find, it doesn't have to be like, I like this one specific task, or I like making this one thing. I like to cook. I must be a cook. I love to cook. I don't want to be a cook. I love to play music. I don't want to play music as a living, it's more than just find something you love and find a way to make money doing that. It's like, find a core skill or a core focus that makes you happy, whether that's, researching or whatever it may be, and find a way and then match that with something that matches your values. So like, identify your values. What do you value, like, in life? What type of people would you do work with? Who wouldn't you do work with? And out of those things, that kind of limits your options to, like, align yourself with people and organizations of similar values. And then find your key ability that makes you happy doing the work. And then you match your key ability with those core values. And then you're going to have this passion, and it's going to fill you with energy instead of take your energy to do this work.
It's not really easy to explain to people. I know it's one of those things you almost have to experience once or twice to understand where that really comes from, right? So when people come out, and I appreciate your answer, by the way. I know that probably wasn't an easy one. I didn't know how that was going to come out, but you're right. I mean, the new business owner or the guy that's just got the idea is really thinking, I got the idea. These are some of the things that I hope help you transition into what you're passionate about, what you want to be happy doing. I've been watching a lot of social media over the last few months, and this whole being happy thing it's a pretty big deal. It's a major deal, especially when you're working like you're working right now. I mean, pulling it back to your passion, values. You were talking about core principles of your company. I want to talk about that next. So what are the core principles, and how did you work through that with your business partners?
The core values of Helios, and this is still a bit of a work in progress.
Okay.
But it's happy, healthy, clean, happy, healthy, authentic.
Why are these so important?
Well, because clean, I mean, we're making sanitizer, and I think we want to be, we want to have a clean planet and a clean mind. We want to feel, we don't want to feel, the opposite of clean is dirty, and that's not a good thing. And we also want a pure product. And then happy, as you said, is such a thing these days. And you know what? Happy isn't fun. Fun makes you happy, but happiness is a state of mind where it's, it's kind of, cheesy things like choose happy, and it's not always that easy, but, happiness is kind of surrendering and just being happy with what you have. And, instead of always looking, at what's missing or what's wrong, it's being happy. And that's what we want to create. We want people to be happy and safe with this product. Clean, happy, healthy. Healthy is, of course, we need to be healthier people. We need to have a healthier planet. And that's why that's so important. And then authentic or authenticity, I'm going between that and accountability. And that's that we're going to be true to our word. We're going to have a real product that is what it says it is, and it's going to be functional, and we're going to stand behind it because we're not just accountable, but we're authentic.
So for these last, the other companies that you started or worked in, with the hemp company, the vape company, the campaign, what led you to, did you learn a lot from the direction those companies were taking, and you put this into, your core values for your company? Or, why are these so important to a business in general?
So I'll answer your first question. Yes, learned a lot about not just what to do, but what not to do. And I saw some of these things either happen too late or never happen at all, where you have a leadership team or the partners and owners that are doing this thing that in their head, they know what they're doing. They have this vision, but it's in their head, and it isn't in a place that can be accessed by the leadership team, by the managers, and by the work, everybody in the organization, because they're too busy doing the day-to-day stuff that they don't take the time to distill what's in their head down onto paper, and then share it with people, get feedback, and refine it until you have, your vision really organized. And the reason that that's so important is because that, as a leader in an organization or as the owners or partners, like you determine the whole flow of the organization. And if it's unclear what's going on right here, then it's just going to be murky what goes on down below. And so that goes from your behavior as an owner to the way you communicate it. And so, a big part of my job is constantly articulating the vision, the mission, the core values, the marketing plan, and the timelines of how we're going to accomplish these things. And then from there, it attracts the right people. You're clear that we have values. And like we were saying earlier, if you're aligned with these values and you have a core ability, then you're probably going to be very happy here. And so that's why it's really important, because it's like a clock tower on the wall that says, this is what time it is. And this is where we're going.
Yeah. It's, that's well said. It's kind of, I've heard people refer to it as your true north, right? You kind of stick to that pathway. So I'm going to change gears here a little bit.
Sure.
So when you started, did you guys have a well-planned strategy when you started this new product?
The short answer is no. It was in such high demand, and we had the ability to make it, so we didn't think twice. We started making it, and then larger orders came, and frankly, a lot of this did develop quickly and intuitively, and kind of was in our heads, and we were talking about it and sharing it. And it's only now, almost 6 months later, that we're really putting this on paper in a way that we can share with our team members or stakeholders, and show them what we're about. But frankly, I've watched companies go on for much longer without the owners and partners, being able to articulate why they're doing what they're doing and how they're going to do it, and putting it in a place where everyone can see, and then that to me is the difference. And I mentioned clock towers, the difference between being a clock tower and a timekeeper. If you build a clock tower, anybody can see the time. If you're stuck being a timekeeper, so that you are the one with the time to give when somebody asks, you're going to be stuck telling people the time all the time because you want to feel special, because you're holding that knowledge to you instead of putting it in a place where everybody can see.
Yeah, making it clear for all the individuals that are involved in the either corporation or business or LLC, whatever you have set up. So your strategy sounds like to me your strategy has changed quite a bit from when you started at the beginning. Am I correct in saying that?
It's changed. It's evolved. I think it's right where it needs to be. It's changed for a couple of reasons. One, when we started making it, you couldn't find this stuff anywhere. And so we were, kind of in an emergency manufacturing mode. We were, deemed essential. We were making it for our accounts and also giving it away. And then the supplies came back up, competitors came back up. You went from having nothing on the shelves to having 10 different sanitizers that all with these weird brands and weird ingredients and all these things out there for next to nothing. And And, since then, some of those have been recalled. There's been warning letters about them, containing dangerous things like methanol or, these, chemicals from plants, outside of the United States. Some of them weren't potent enough. And they're still out there. It's still a high demand good. And it's a heck of a lot cheaper than it was when there was a supply, and really than it was previously, because there's just such an oversupply right now. And so the main way that we have shifted is we are taking Helios into a little bit of a higher end value added market where we've done our Here to Help campaign. So we're giving away product based on the revenue with every sale, kind of like a Toms of Shoes model. And we also just launched a new scented line that is all plant-based. And so, it's the type of thing where these days everybody uses sanitizer. And so there's going to be those people that want to give back with every purchase, or want a plant-based sanitizer, that's scented with lavender or spearmint or eucalyptus or rosemary or geranium. And those are all products we're making. And so it has shifted, and that's because that's the only way to survive in this type of market. I mean, we're talking something that was in the short term, more high growth and more volatile than cannabis markets. And so, at the end of the day, there was no other option but to pivot or persevere.
So it sounds like you've had some challenges and learned some lessons, right?
Oh, yes.
Why don't you share a couple of those with us? I'm kind of curious.
I would say the consistent pivot and persevere has been one. Actually, I have some notes of these. We went from in the market, no supply to oversupply. And
how fast did that happen?
It happened very fast. There was no supply in overnight practically. And then, there was that continued for maybe less than 2 months. And then within a month after that, it was like everywhere. And we had to drop the price. We had to lose money on some large orders because they were about to cancel them, and they'd already been, packaged on pallets to go out the door, and they say, oh, we got it cheaper, just people trying to play the price game. And so we stopped playing that game and are making a better higher end product and building a brand. And then also the compliance journey has been something else because, there were these temporary restrictions around producing sanitizer that were implemented at the beginning of the crisis. Those have lifted. And so now we're getting all regulated and making sure we're staying in compliance.
People knew that would be coming at some point, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We were prepared for that.
Okay.
Another thing is just being in a high growth, high risk environment, having to deal with all of the legal and financial and insurance, all of these needs so quickly when it's such a new company and new product and new brand has definitely been a challenge.
So you built the product, but then you had to figure it out along the way on how to basically make sure that you were compliant with everything, as well as fight off the competitors and and you had to make sure that you could still run a business and make enough money at the time, right?
Yeah, and keep up with sales and have operations be able to deliver orders. And it feels like it was like what the journey that you would take in like 10 years or I don't know, 6 years and 6 months, easily.
Yeah, you were learning daily, it sounds like.
Oh, absolutely. Every day is a week, every week is a month. It's been a lot.
So spending so much time in the cannabis and hemp world, what types of strategies are you applying from cannabis and hemp into this new product?
Well, I mean, I guess one of the first things that came to mind is kind of a cautiously optimistic, appetite for risk while, still keeping safe. I mean, the THC world is still technically operating in a federally illegal landscape. And, frankly, when I went to make sanitizer, the first thing I did was make a product and send it to people. It wasn't research the compliance and, licenses and regulatory nature of sanitizer, because I knew that people need this and we're helping and we're giving it away. So we're not selling it. So we're safe. Okay, now we're selling it. And that's when the FDA temporary guidelines came into place. And, now we're navigating that and the compliance journey. But, if you're going to be in a high risk industry, you're already operating in a gray area, and, it's not for the faint of heart. And, I'm not telling anyone to go out there and do anything illegal, but when there's laws that are evolving, like and things that change quickly overnight, like for example, the DEA regulations on hemp for processors and products that are in process that came out last week. I mean, that makes me think, oh my God, they're saying this is now illegal again. And I'm only saying that because, compliance and safety, are primary concerns, and having, a brand and company with great integrity is at the top of the list. That being said, when you're called to serve and get people, either whether it's plant medicine or a sanitizer product, there might be a situation where forgiveness is easier than permission, and you just have to plow forward and say, we're doing this, and go do it. And then once you get to a point, say, okay, if we're going to keep doing this, what licenses, certifications, regulations, support do we need? That's why we now have a full, comprehensive general liability and product liability insurance package, because we are doing those things. But was I going to wait? Was I going to wait to get this in people's hands until I had insurance? No, we're going to get it in people's hands. And then if it grows, we're going to get the necessary things we need to continue to grow. So,
what points did you take into account when you were making those decisions?
What points?
Yeah, like what I would say when you're thinking, okay, if I follow this to the T, there's no way I'm going to get to production. There's no way I'm going to get into somebody's hands. You've got a risk versus reward, right? So you had to thought about a few things, like, okay, these are all the reasons why I shouldn't do it, but these are all the reasons why. How do you, as an entrepreneur, how do you say, well, I need to push the envelope now?
I think that this was made particularly easy because it was in such dire need to help people stay, be safe and protect themselves and potentially prevent the spread of a deadly disease. So
Okay.
At that point it was, and then also the regulatory nature at the time, everyone has a lot bigger things to focus on. So I felt comfortable like getting it out there, and I guess without seeming like, corny or hippy dippy or something, but there's just sometimes there's just a sense of intuition,
Okay.
where it says like my gut is saying, go make this, go do this. It's going to be okay. You're going to get what you need as far as protection, certifications, insurance, and those are all things that we have now. But if I sat there and I said I need X, Y, Z, B, A, C, D to start doing this, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have been here, because somebody else would have done it. And, we're still, a small, high growth, startup, which means that we don't have, millions of dollars in reserve to go pay a compliance, team and a team of attorneys to get us all the things right away. We had to take a little risk, and I'm okay, saying that, because we didn't do anything wrong and we're now in full compliance.
What would you tell somebody that wants to make sure they have everything in a row before they start a company or a business such as yourself?
I mean, just make sure none of those things are going to have you end up in jail or have your, assets seized or frozen. Usually those things, end up with a slap on the wrist. You get a cease and desist or, things like that. I'm in no way advocating any illegal activity or endangering any people. What I am saying is sometimes, you need to put plans into action before you have every piece of the puzzle. And, it's kind of like I always think of building a company, and we maybe said this last time, but I think of it as driving a car as opposed to building a rocket ship, because if you try to build a rocket ship, it takes a long time and a lot of money, and you get one chance. And if anything fucks up, it goes down and you lose everything. And if you think of it more as driving a car, you get a car, maybe you get a used car, maybe you build the car, maybe you get a new car, you get in the car, you start driving, you pick up, some passengers, some partners, throw some people in the back seat, load the tank, you pull over, get more gas, you got to change a tire, make a wrong turn, get back on the road, keep going. You can always keep going. And at the same time, I think we all drove a car, maybe a lot of us, maybe before we had our license. Maybe that was with, on mom or dad's knee, or, on the dirt road, or in the country, or in the field, or with a friend who had a license. And it's like, are those people, were they bad people doing terrible things? No. Were they technically driving a car without a license? Yes. And did that, ruin their fate or prevent them from getting their driver's license? No. So, as long as your heart's in the right place and you're not putting anybody at risk, and including yourself, then sometimes you just gotta kind of go for it. And then everything will, fall into place.
These risks that we're talking about, to the listeners out there, and you guys are awesome. It's this type of stuff that we're talking, me and Axie are discussing. These are real things that are coming up, and you guys, I felt them when I was building multiple companies too, and it's a tough thing to judge. I mean, I think this is particular to each person. However, if you're not willing to take these additional risks, maybe an entrepreneur is not the best place for you. I mean, maybe it is working for somebody. Maybe it's focusing on one thing and you just like to do that. And you've got to come up with those, decisions on your own. But there are guys out there like Axie, guys that you can listen to and say, you know what, that guy, I can relate to him. I see where he's coming from. And, he's not going to shove it down your throat. He's basically sharing his story. And the multiple entrepreneurs that I've talked to, they seem to have very similar things as what you're talking about, Axie, is understanding that there's always going to be the risk, and there's not always going to be the most perfect moment. And we have to make decisions with the information that's in front of us and to keep moving forward. Because like you said back there a little while ago, you said, hey, if I had all this stuff in line, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you. And, I love the analogy of a car, like just kind of taking it easy and building it up and not making too big of a deal about it, and understanding, look, we're going to build this business. It's not perfect, but we're building it on a budget right now. and we're making that happen. And as you get a little success, you start adding, well, maybe we'll buy some new tires. You know what? The engine needs to be tuned up. You know, and all of a sudden, the building block of your vehicle, is on its way to being a jet engine. Is that kind of the direction you were heading?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can, that analogy can go a lot of places. You know, you can trade in your car. You can get, multiple cars. You can get a bit. It's like having a lease. You know, and I guess it only goes so far, but it definitely works. And yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're the type of person that needs everything to be right all the time, maybe you aren't an entrepreneur. Maybe you want to be a compliance officer for a successful company that was started by an entrepreneur that took the risk to maybe be in and out of compliance as that whole nature of compliance evolved. I mean, think about the marijuana or the cannabis industry. I mean, THC businesses are still technically federally illegal and they're thriving, and the DEA just passed something that basically puts anything that's above 0.3%, which is pretty much anything that's in process, they're saying that that's illegal. And, so here we are, so it is that type of world we're living in. And I think at the end of the day, for better or for worse, being in this crisis, and maybe I said this last time, and my mom always said this to me, because crisis and opportunity is the same caricature or character in Chinese. It's the same Chinese character for crisis and opportunity. And so when I say there's a lot of opportunity in this crisis, it's not because I'm an opportunist, and it's not because, people aren't, and there are people out there doing that, but people aren't in cannabis only because there's money. And I'm definitely not making sanitizer just because it was a good business. Like, we were called to help. That said, there is going to be a lot of opportunity for entrepreneurs in this time of crisis, because things are shifting. It's a very volatile time. Things are moving around. And so there's a lot of things you can grab hold of. Our whole like psychographic map of the way we think is changing. And so if you are willing to jump into the unknown and leave the comforts behind of like having everything be right as it should be all the time, frankly, this is like the best time for an entrepreneur to be bringing their idea to life, or looking around and saying, where is there a problem that I can solve? And there's a lot of problems right now, and we need people with solutions.
Yeah, I can only imagine here in the next, let's say, 24 months, we're going to see some people coming out of these challenging times with some great inventions, some amazing ways to solve some of these problems that we've been discussing. And I'm super excited for the entrepreneurs that are out there listening right now, because you have so much opportunity, especially with the internet. It's just growing so much faster now in all parts of industry. So I'm excited to be around it and be a part of it. And I really appreciate you coming on the show today and showing what somebody that's in the trenches right now, really digging through this, has going on in his mind, because it's hard to explain sometimes all the different pieces of the puzzle that somebody like you in your position has to do on a daily basis. And it comes with compliance, and it comes with, well, am I hurting anybody? You've got to ask yourself these questions each time you have to make a decision. So I thank you for joining us today. And guys, if you're interested in following up with Axie, of course, he's going to be in my my blog post, so you'll be able to click on him there and be able to find him there. But he has his hand sanitizer that he is one of his first products that he's putting out there to help others, and he's going to be building a brand. And I hope I hope to see more products of yours actually hit the market.
You sure will. I don't want to tell you anything public yet, but I'll send some your way.
Thanks so
Well,
much.
I thought it was great, Tony, and I'm just thrilled to be here chatting with you and be able to share this with the community and the folks that your listeners. So it's an honor.
Well, thanks a lot, man. Guys, come check me out here at plantproblems.com if you're interested in looking at some more podcasts. I've got several different episodes. I've got some really cool ones coming up. I've been working hard to bring those to you. Some unique stuff that will save you on some taxes, which is always a problem in cannabis. So thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Tony.
You've just listened to another insightful episode of Plant Problems. If you like what you heard so far, don't forget to tell your friends and colleagues. For additional resources or to leave a review, head over to plantproblem.com. Join us again next week on Plant Problems with Tony Frischknecht. We look forward to having conversations with you as we go along this journey.